Welcome to another episode of the Grim and Bloody Podcast. I'm Kevin Nicholson, and I'm going to be this very special deal today. I'm going to be doing this solo. We are missing my three cohorts: Anthony Durham, the producer of the show; Al Omega, the award-winning host of the Creature Features show, the one and only Creature Features show for Northern California. And Joe Flynn, who is experiencing a power outage right now in San Jose, California. Joe Flynn is the award-winning Create TV horror host. But with me today, fresh from Tel Aviv, is the esteemed writer, producer, director, Barak Barkan, whose film 2019 film Silence and Darkness is recently released, just in the last month or so, on Shudder. Although you can find it also on Tubi, you can find it on a couple of other platforms. I actually saw it on Tubi. But we're here to talk. Well, we're here to talk body horror, and we're here to talk all things disturbing family secrets and so forth. Mr. Barkan, how are you doing today?
Good. Thank you for having me, Kevin. I appreciate it, and I like the intro very much.
Thank you. So I'm guessing well, first of all, let's get this out of the way. How's the weather in Tel Aviv? Right here in Sacramento, California, it is rain, and more rain.
It's been pretty dry here, no rain. It's a pretty warmish December, but they're expecting, I think, some rain this week. We get about 2-3 months of real winter here, and then it's pretty much summer the rest of the year, similar to Southern California. But I hope it gets a little nicer in Sacramento soon.
Well, it will. We definitely, in California, we have areas that really need rain, that really need water, and so forth. So this is nice to see. I just don't wish to begin every day with songs like "Singing in the Rain," running through my head. So, well, first of all, I want to ask. Let's talk about Silence and Darkness. This is a most disturbing, film. It's a film that kind of gets under your skin, under your fingernails, and so forth, and it kind of rattles you. And I like the fact that it's a slow burn. It takes its time. Yeah. It takes its time,
some might say too much time. Some might say it takes its time a little too idle for some, which I understand completely.
If you're deliberate and to a point, or to have a point to it, to the deliberates, I'm all for it. It's when you're attempting to be deliberate, but there's no payoff. That's when it becomes like a waste of my time. So let's ask you, without going into spoilers, so much about it for those folks who haven't seen it yet, go see it.
Yeah, but feel free to, first of all, yes, I'd love for people to see it. And like you said, it's available on Shudder, Tubi for free with ads, and then on any on-demand platform probably that you can think of. But, it's been out. It was started its festival circuit in 2019. In 2020, it was released on, digitally and kind of widespread. So it's been out for a while. And now it's been, found its way onto Shudder last month, and hopefully it finds a new audience there, and that'd be great. But if we do want to get into spoilers, I'm happy to get into them if it makes for a better conversation.
Okay.
Considering the fact that it's a movie that's been out, and I'll say this: I think even if, to me, there is no real spoiler to this film, honestly. Like, even if what is revealed at the end, I think there's still a big question mark at the end of this movie that I intentionally left there. So again, we can get into it as much as you'd like.
So let's get started on it. What was your mindset in the making of this film? Like, what was the genesis of this?
The mindset. Well, so this film, let's start with the fact, like I said, came out in 2020, but it was actually shot in 2017, in the spring of 2017. And so it's a pre-pandemic production, but still a very small crew. It's one of those, it's one of these projects. Let's just start. I'll say what it's about, kind of give people the general log line, which is it's a psychological thriller or horror, however you want to catalog it. And it's about two sisters. One's blind, the other's deaf. And they live in a secluded house out in the country with their father. And the question that drives the plot is, where's mom? But it is very much, as you alluded to, maybe more of a family dark drama, and kind of you get to see how these people live, the way they live, how they communicate, what's their life, and then what is like this sinister secret that, you know, at the background of everything, and then becomes the foreground eventually. But that's basically the premise, or the general synopsis of the film. And you know, I wrote it kind of fresh out of film school. I graduated from NYU in 2016, and I was, you know, just starting my, you know, career, whatever you want to call it, just survival mode of working as someone in production, as a filmmaker in New York. And but what I had was the ability to make something for cheap that I thought was good, and that's what I felt like I learned in school, is just kind of how to use the tools that are at my disposal. So I basically wrote this screenplay kind of knowing actors, locations, props, cars, anything that I could get my hands on for free. I put that into this contained story, and I had written a completely different type of film before writing this one, and tossed it because I felt like it wasn't what I wanted to do as my, you know, kind of first feature. And then I really started thinking kind of what can I do to test the limits of the genre, the horror thriller genre, and then also what can I do to test my limits. And I just started with this notion of it started just with this idea of the two sisters watching TV, and then kind of how that process even works. One's blind, the other's deaf, how they're communicating, and then who else is in the house with them, and then who isn't in the house, and it just kind of snowballed from there. And especially when we got the whole language going down, this idea of them communicating through contact, through touch, which is something that exists for the blind and deaf community. There's a language called protactile that was created actually by two women who are both blind and deaf, and felt like there wasn't a form of communication that was representative of them, of their culture. And so they actually created it. And so I saw that, I found videos of them, and I kind of said, okay, there's something here. And in terms of putting that in the movie, what I loved about it is just this idea of how you would be able to see these people communicate who we as a society normally look at, people with any kind of disability, and we think that we know more than, or we should have more information than them. And you, as the viewer of this film, you don't have a leg up on any of these characters, even though one of them is lacking in hearing and the other is lacking in vision. You're just as much in the dark as they are. And, you know, that tension is what really drew me and allowed me to kind of develop the story. That was a really long-winded ansor, but I hope it makes sense.
Come on, I need longer-winded. Let's go. Let's get into their backstory, the childhood backstory, and talk about it. But what I was most impressed with, among the many things, was the fact that these were not weak heroines, weak characters. In fact, these were particularly resilient, characters. The soon as they find out, or they get a strong belief of what's going on, and they deal with, I guess you want to say the antagonist in this instance is their father,
Yep.
and when they find out and how they deal with it going up against their father and so forth. I thought that there was this amazing strength, willingness to do what needs to be done for survival. It's like
Right.
the two ladies are saying, I'm not ready to check out today. I don't care if you're family. I don't care what's going on. I have a life. I want it.
Right. Yeah. I love
Yeah.
that. I love that interpretation, and
Yeah.
that, that's what you came away with it. And I agree. And that's, basically what I was saying earlier. You normally, these kinds of characters, you think, they're going to be helpless. I'm going to feel sorry and scared for them. And as you mentioned, it's more of a disturbing film. And I don't know if you're scared for them, if you're just so ideally, hopefully, just you're worried, and curious, right?
I
And
think I
curious
was
for them to go on the journey.
I think I was not really scared, but pensive because these two are put into, because of their disabilities, are put into a vulnerable situation. They're kind of at the mercy of their father. And since you said it's okay to reveal, I'll say that the father is a doctor who's obsessed with uh, understanding the dynamic between the two his two daughters, and he's he's almost considering them like test subjects, and he puts them through some of the most extreme, uh, brutal testing that you ever did, that you did see, and it alludes to what I was saying before about this big body horror, uh, in in some respect. I got the
Right.
idea that the father was, uh, the father was overwhelmed with this obsession, and that's what was propelling him. I kept going back and forth within myself about whether or not he had something to do with advancing his wife's death, and so forth. But that's left open, as you talked about. Uh, and I'll tell you, I had, maybe you can talk on this too. Is I had thoughts in my head of going back to previous blind people who are in jeopardy, previous hearing impaired people that are in jeopardy. Movies like Hear No Evil, which is Marley Matlin uh, being stalked by a killer, and Wait Until
Right.
Dark, the great Wait Until Dark with Audrey Hepburn is being stalked, or Mia Farrow in See No Evil, that kind of thing. Was that something that was kind of in the back of your head too, that maybe you grew up on that, a little bit of influence?
Um, honestly, not so much those films, even
Right.
though I do love them and I, appreciate them. I just think that, in terms of influences, for me, there's more, a lot of like, Rosemary's Baby kind
Okay.
of, that's very like a sinister, right?
Hmm.
Marriage, some that, I get a lot of comparisons to films like, to like Dogtooth,
Hmm.
Yorgos Lanthimos, right? which is, kind of similar, like the one location, the kids in the house and the parents are controlling. And but like I said, those films you mentioned, the general way they create tension is this idea of here's a blind person, and I'm going to show you the killer behind them, and they can't see them, right? The killer's right in front of them, and they can't see them, right? And you, the audience member, are so scared for them because you can see them, but the protagonist can't. And here we kind of flip the script. It's they're figuring things out. You don't even necessarily know what they're saying to each other because they're speaking a language that you don't understand, that we, the audience, don't understand. And, the idea is that it ideally draws you in, and then you see the action that precedes the conversation, and slowly you start to, get it. So that's where, again, that's the tension that I was trying to go from. And it's something that I hadn't seen before, done in any genre. So again, that's what kind of drew me to it.
Yeah, and it, I can see that it's almost the type of film where somebody in the audience is yelling at the screen, "Don't go in that room there! He's right behind you. He's right behind you." Man, do I gotta go into the film screen and
right? And I love those. Right? Don't get me wrong. I love that. Those are fun. To be able to kind of want to scream and want to tell the character to do something else. By the way, like I saw The Substance recently, and I don't want to spoil that to people, but they should definitely go see that movie as well after they've watched Silence and Darkness. But I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen The Substance?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I have, and I was
just that scene where she's talk about that's body horror, and that's amazing. But that scene where she's getting ready to go on that date. And and I watched that movie, and I was going, please, just don't look at the mirror and just go. You can do it. Just don't take another glance at any reflection. You've got this. And you just know that if she had left that apartment that night and went on that date, that everything would have been fine. And it was just, for me as a viewer, I was and the moment she just decides to not go through with it, sorry, not that big of a spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen the film, but for me that was a very crushing moment. Those, I thought that was beautifully done. That was beautifully crafted.
Yes.
Those moments where you're just kind of really rooting for the character to do something, and they just can't make that choice. But again, this is a different type. This film is different. It's more atmospheric. There's like this idea of a sinister, similar to Rosemary's Baby. Something's off. There's something's off, but you don't know what, and you're just hopefully drawn in, and we're leaving breadcrumbs as we go along, and these two sisters are kind of figuring things out, and until we get to the final conclusion where they set themselves free.
That's exactly it. That's exactly what I was thinking. That this is more of a release, for them, and in fact, you have. Your establishing shot, but your final shot in the film leads to that point, which is having them ride off on a bicycle. That that's it basically, and you have it down this road that's lined with trees. It's forested nature area, and ahead of them you're seeing possibility. Hope.
Yep.
Whatever is out there, it's not here. It's not what It's not what's behind you.
Even though they're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree. Yeah, I mean, again, like I don't want to influence anyone's interpretation of this movie.
No.
In any way. So the fact that that's what you took away from it, I love it, and even though it's, I made it, it's my film in quotation marks, I don't feel like I have an authority over what people take away from it. And I think that's point of making something that's a little enigmatic, that leaves some loose ends, is that people get to then have their own meaning interpretation, not just in terms of thematic meaning, but in terms of actual plot, in terms of actual story, right? People can decide, the father did this or didn't do this. These were his motives or these weren't his motives. And even though I have my idea of what his motives are, it doesn't really matter. That's kind of my point. It doesn't mean I'm right and anyone else is wrong. It's whatever anyone takes away from it. Their interpretation is just as right as mine.
Now, you spoke of the father, and I say I'm really impressed. I'm going to mispronounce the name, I'm sure. Jordan Lage?
Lage. Jordan Lage. She's great, fantastic.
Why was I thinking Stanley Tucci when he has that same, and not just because of physical appearance of balding, man, but Stanley Tucci has this incredible ability to say something with his face yet saying nothing, yet not even speaking. The slow reactions, the stare, and so forth. The look of contemplation on his face. And Jordan has all of that. There's often scenes where he doesn't say a word, and yet you feel a certain malevolence, a certain. I said to myself when I was watching it that I could almost see the cracking in his brain, the crumbling in his brain.
Wow, I love that.
A little bit.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, to me that's all Jordan. I mean, he knew. I think he knew this. He knew how to approach this character, who I'm sure he also knew that a lot of people were not going to find very likable in any way, and yet he did it without any hesitation. And for me, I think there, we had conversations. Obviously, we did do rehearsals, but that moment on set where I knew I never had to worry at all about what he was going to do in a scene was actually when we filmed the flossing.
Yes.
The way, because I had imagined that, and I thought I was going to have to, really kind of walk him through it, and he did it perfectly. Kind of just first take. I think we have probably just 2 takes of that, and because just he did it perfectly. I was like, all right, I don't need this guy to floss all day. He's doing it just as I imagined, if not better, and it was just so because that with some aggression to it.
When he's asking her to open her mouth, let me see.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, he's really going all there with this.
No, I'm not even. But I'm saying the scene when he flosses.
Oh yes, yeah, okay, yeah, okay.
But yes, there is a scene with Mrs. Long, with Ariel Zivon, who is fantastic. But I'm talking about the scene that just like that plain shot of him flossing in front of the mirror. That to me was like, okay, he got this. He's got this. I know it's. I mean, yes, that in the doctor's office. By then, that was later in the shoot actually, and that was a no-brainer. I knew he'd nail it. But yeah, I just remember the first day of shooting with him, and we were just kind of trying to get some establishing stuff, and those scenes were very reassuring for me as the director, just kind of see that he's got this character down.
Well, the scene that you're talking about, it gave me the impression that this guy is very phobic, is very obsessed with hygiene, much like Jack Nicholson's character in As Good as It Gets. Where with all the bars of soap in his bathroom and so forth, and so he needs to this father character needs to have everything done within a certain order, a certain precision, And it's almost as if he's not only treating the girls as part of his experiment, but himself as his entire world is this one giant experiment that needs to be meticulously, observed, meticulously done. Now, you mentioned before about the locations. Uh, Remote locations like that can often cause problems. Logistics problems. Weather problems, things that can be. Were there any type of? First of all, where did you film? Because it looks great. And
Yep.
were there any kind of obstacles that you needed to overcome?
Uh, so we filmed in Warren, Vermont.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of in an hour away from an hour north of Burlington, and it's an area called Mad River Valley, which is beautiful. Just if anybody ever gets the chance to go through there, I highly recommend it. And we, that it was a very contained shoot. We had access to that house. We had access to the house, and we that's also where we lived. So we
Mm-hmm.
were filming and staying in the house where we were shooting at, which actually uh, was very convenient. You're waking up, everybody's on set. But it was funny because we still kept it professional. Even it was a 6-person crew, and everybody would wake up and there'd still be call sheet and call times and turn around and everything. Even though we'd all wrap and then set the table for dinner and watch a movie. But yeah, but it was important for us to still have kind of this this sense of professionalism through everything. And then shout out to my producing partner Pablo Byrne, who's always on it with everything from scheduling to props and art, and the DP Omar Nasser, who did a fantastic job and just took full advantage of the location and the landscape. As far as challenges, we were hoping for mud and rain, and we got it mostly, so that's good. It was shot in the spring, and the spring in that time can be known as mud season, and we wanted this to be kind of just one of those uh, movies that you don't really know exactly what time of year it is, what's going on. Again, like um, it's all very unclear in that sense. And but as far as complications, the hardest part was filming in areas where there were like functioning businesses, like the grocery store or things like that. Or I remember, and there's the talent show scene, and we filmed at this great farm where they have a. Where I just remember it was that had too much. There was a lot of rain and it was pouring, and we needed more extras, and it was hard to get people to come be the audience members there when it was downpour. But other than that, it was relatively good and easy, and the film gods were on our side at least in terms of weather.
You can't just like go to the grocery store and stand outside and say, anybody want to be in a film? I'm shooting right over there.
No, yeah, it was they again, the people of Warren, they're so kind, and obviously we had spoken to them beforehand, but we knew we weren't able to close the place down completely, and I didn't want to, honestly. I knew that it was just like a very quick scene where I just needed a few shots, and we had scouted everything beforehand, and I'd basically the entire film storyboarded. I mean, for those who watched or will watch the film, you'll see there is a precision to it. Very, the blocking is very intentional. And there are a few handheld moments, which I think are good to kind of break the rhythm and kind of jar and wake you up ideally. it's always fun to kind of establish kind of a tone and then and rules and then kind of break them. But when it feels right and makes sense. But yeah, so just in terms of, you know, look, you can, I guess you can see in this movie there's a lot of elements of control, right? You talk about the father and his phobia and his idea of like his daughters are potentially a science experiment for him in so many ways. And so, you know, for me it was fun to have the house, which was a very controlled environment, and then getting out of the house and going to public spaces where there's less control for me as a director. Then you can kind of make the correlation between me and the father, where I get a little stressed when I don't have complete control over what's going on in front of the camera.
You have to go some to be like the father. You have to go some, you know, still. Now what's interesting is you talked about the controlled scene inside the interiors, you know, of that. And it seemed to me, because you have the few moments of violence that you use are essentially to purposely jar a scene, a quiet, some would say, maybe say static or stagnant, you know, scene. Your few moments of violence jar it like a punch. And the one scene I was, you know, thinking of, and I wasn't expecting the moment of violence, was the dinner table scene where I believe it was post, where the one girl has the arm cut off, and he gets up from around the table to go care for his daughters, and when he gets to the daughter with the arm cut off, she just whacks him right across the face. And the normal reaction to that, like in other, you know, scenes, might be that their father responds with his own whack. That doesn't happen here.
Right.
He retreats as a matter of fact, and you're not sure what he's you know thinking, remorse, or is he thinking shock, you know, or whatever. But for me, that woke up that scene. It's like almost as effective of a shock moment as the standard sudden shocks that you see in horror thrillers. And
right. No,
yeah, go ahead.
So what? I don't know if you have I don't know if there's a specific question that you have, or if there's something that
no, I was
just about it. But if you want, I can comment about it also from
please do.
My essential or whatever.
My essential question was, you know, was that deliberate on your part to kind of, you know, break up the scene a little bit, kind of provide a jolt to the you know, to the scene, both that and the stabbing at the end in the finale.
Yeah, well, that's you know, that's our climax basically. But you know, as far as the slap, yeah, that was a good one. I mean, you know, every scene. There are a lot of quiet scenes in this movie, but again, ideally they're all leading up to something and to something bigger. But you know, you want to have ideally some kind of beginning, middle, and end to any kind of scene, and you know, that moment in the film, you know, like okay, so we'll back up. Like you said, she has her arm cut off, right? So basically, in the film, there's this idea that, you know, as you said, the father's a doctor, he's taking care of his daughters. The one of the daughters, Beth, who is you know, deaf, hard of hearing, according to him, becomes incredibly ill, and is taken away. At this point, his other daughter doesn't trust him and tries to stop him, and then by the time she isn't successful, and by the time the sister returns home, she's missing an arm. And you know, the only thing that we know from according to the father is, this had to be done for her benefit, for her health and safety, right? And as far as where that character is emotionally, having gone through that trauma now, and she kind of has nothing more to lose. So when he, tries to act like everything's normal, and she responds in that way, it's letting him know, you've I don't care anymore, I guess, is one way to interpret it. Swing away, because what you've already done can't be much worse than that. So, and, as far as his response, again, I don't, everybody can interpret it their own way, but we have to remember he's a very calculated person. And then again, you also, the big question I think that is left with is, what were his intentions to begin with? And that's for everyone to interpret and for everyone to, come away with. So all these things, the whether he responds or doesn't respond is kind of ideally left for the audience to fill in those gaps as to why he does or doesn't do something at that moment, thinking back on it. But in terms of production, that was a very fun scene, and probably not as fun for Jordan, but I'll just say this: that was also the first day of shooting. We were leading up to that moment in the day. I don't know if it was post lunch, pre lunch, but I saw, I was like, we gotta. This is a really good time of day to get this scene done, and that was. It was tough to do, in terms of just the physicality of it, because she's sitting on this couch. When you're sitting on a couch, you're already a little lowered, and she's got this, she's got her arm, kind of, she has to hide it, and we've got the frame. So there's a lot of technical things that have to happen, and then she also has to actually nail this effing slap, right? She has to slap the dude and really slap him, and she, so it took a lot of tries, 11 takes to be specific. But I'll say it was worth it, because the take that was used, and I remember this, so I always know to say that, sometimes you need to do these amounts. It was take 9 out of 11, which was used in the final cut. So we had to get him, and in that take 9, she knocked his glasses off.
I was going to say, out of those 9 or 11 takes, how many of those did Jordan feel? Because it looks like she is really giving him a whack.
No, so I think it took a while to get it, because like I said, there was a lot of work on getting it done and getting the right amount of strength and get the momentum going, and so it took a bunch. He didn't. No actor or anyone was injured seriously on the shoot. So he was a great sport about it. I don't remember him complaining about ever going in for another take. And again, kudos to him. It was his first day of filming, but yeah.
I will say that I was watching the film with my husband, someone else, and his reaction was basically, as she was doing it, was, whack that fucker, whack it. He cut off your damn arm, whack the bitch. And I was laughing. But that's the feeling, the feeling of it. So let me. This was your first feature film. What I've seen, is this your only feature film that you've done so far?
Yes, right now, first and only feature. Hopefully there'll be more. Yeah, like I said, it was one of those projects that I was able to kind of get off the ground. That I basically, knew I wanted to do and could do, because I had written it in a way that it could be done on the shoeest strings of shoes. However we're gonna a real, just a thread of a shoestring budget.
The
But
shoest of shoestring. Can I say that if you're, man, you have to be drinking to say that.
yeah, I think so. I promise I wasn't drinking before we recorded. Uh,
I
but
know.
but yeah, no, it was it was one of those things that I was able to grab my friends and collaborators and kind of take them away for 3 weeks to the woods and to make a movie. It was just something that you could only do kind of post graduation. People are still kind of figuring things out, and you just want to give people an excuse to go and make something. And that the moment I realized that I could make this, I just knew I had to make it happen. And I want to make movies obviously on a larger scale, but today it's very tough to get a movie made. But I'm trying, and I'm enjoying the process. And I mean, obviously, I go back and forth between myself of whether or not I want to endeavor in another one of these extreme micro budget films and kind of come up with a story based off of, kind of, again, the resources I have at my disposal, or kind of stick to trying more of a traditional route and just kind of, work on something that might be able to get, more financing and names and whatever. But,
I'll shoot you the.
but it's a very dynamic situation.
I'll shoot you the phone number to my buddies at Bloomhouse. They can hook you up with something.
All right, sounds good. I've got some scripts ready to go.
Maybe I'll stalk Eli Roth on Instagram or something like that, and get a response from him as far as that goes.
Sounds good. Yes.
So
I'm willing to talk to anyone.
So we wrap it up with a couple of things. Where can people find you on social media? I know you have a Barak Barkan, Barkan.com website. Is that generally the place to go to get all the information?
That's generally the place to go. There's also a Instagram page for the movie itself, Silence Darkness. We can look that up. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a very active person on social media. But if you leave a letterbox review or anything, I'll check it out, and I just hope people engage with the film, and and as many people see it and hopefully enjoy being disturbed.
You know what? We do it one better. I will do a review and put it on our website, which is grimandbloodypodcast.com. And we send that information out also in a newsletter that we now do monthly. Our second one is coming up. So I want to make sure that people are aware of this. And many thanks to the wonderful people at Shudder for realizing the potential of this film and putting it out. That had to have been something that was exciting when you were informed, got the information that it was now going to show on Shudder. Probably like, what, really, what?
No, definitely. I was definitely surprised, especially after it being out for a couple of years now, and also that it was already on Tubi, available for people to watch. So when Shudder kind of wanted to make a deal, then it was very exciting, and we're happy that it's on that platform and getting again, fresh eyes, new audiences, and especially horror fans. I think I have a complicated, long-winded, I think, relationship with the horror genre, but it is probably the one that I appreciate the most, in terms of the fact that it is, I think, it's the purest genre for cinema, in the sense that it has to use all the cinematic elements to their best abilities in order to make the viewer buy in and believe and feel the way the filmmakers want you to feel, because essentially, you know, there's absolutely no reason for us to be scared of, anything that's happening on projected on a screen when we're in the comfort of a theater or of our homes, and yet continuously we watch these things and we're terrified. Maybe if you watch them at a very early age, you might even say traumatized, and they stay with you. And that's the power of this medium and the power of that genre when it's used and done correctly. So, I appreciate all the horror fans, and that's why. So I feel honored that it's on Shudder and with that
Yeah.
community.
Well, as I've often said, the horror film presents the most raw emotions of anything cinematic. And that's usually extreme fear, extreme discomfort, nausea, sadness, even a certain sense of joy and relief when it's over. And you don't find that in a lot of other films. This is more a lot of other cinema. This is more in your face. And the thing is, what you do and what people like yourself, filmmakers like yourself, do when they do this psychological, stuff, they take the horror. And you said something about you're in a movie theater and you're feeling safe because the menace is on the screen. You take the horror in a psychological from the shadows of vampire, supernatural, all of this otherworldly stuff, put it right into your home, right into your next bedroom. That's what makes people squirm a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. I'm definitely more drawn to that type of horror, even though again, I can love a good supernatural horror story as well. Again, there are countless examples of great films, but that's again, that's the range of this genre. It's nice that it's continually expanding and evolving, and that's also something that I tried to do in terms of this movie, of just like I said, in terms of horror having to use all the cinematic elements. It's also fun when you can try and maybe take away some and see what that creates, and whether you can still have that feeling that you feel when you're watching a horror film. So for example, in this film there is no score, right? And a score is something that we always associate with in horror. There's something sometimes it was interesting to try and create something more sinister without a score, without kind of implanting that in the viewer's subconscious and seeing how they respond to that. And ideally, when for the emotion and tone that we were wanting people to have, which is kind of what I always say, is I want you to kind of have this feeling of someone kind of pressing lightly against your Adam's apple from start to finish, and you don't really know why. Before anything, like, again, nefarious has happened, you still feel uncomfortable. That was one of the ways. It was, things like that, things like not having a score, things like being in a wide format and trying to leave a lot of negative space in the frame, kind of feeling like there's this, even though you're seeing a lot, there's still a lot of danger off camera. Those are the kind of things that me and the rest of the people that were behind the film were kind of talking and thinking about when building the world.
Yeah, you talk about placing pressure on your Adam's apple. I'm the weird person that would say that gets me aroused. What do you,
Everybody has their thing.
If you're looking to like make me fearful, apprehensive, I think something else is happening. That kind of. Well, it's been a pleasure talking with you, Barak Barkan. Silence in Darkness is out on Shudder, Tubi. If you don't mind the commercials, Tubi is free. Shudder has a small monthly subscription. I do highly recommend Shudder, though they are fantastic, and as is Tubi. See this film. Do not be prepared for a sudden shock, stalk and slash horror monster thriller. This is a deliberately paced, slow burn of the film, as I mentioned, that requires you to invest your patience. You will be rewarded. It is that good. Check it out. We'll see you next time on the Grim and Bloody podcast. For Barak Barkan and for my co-hosts who were not able to be here today, Anthony Duran, Joe Flynn, and Al Omega. I'm Kevin Nicholson. Remember, watch horror films. Keep America strong.